Oh, look, it's in it. How about that? Um, so how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. I'm fighting. I'm gonna try to mute myself every time I cough. I'm fighting a cold or something.
You mean your international travels
Yeah,
have have worn you out a little bit?
the day I got back, um, I wasn't feeling so great.
That's,
Yeah,
that's what travel does.
yeah.
It tears you down.
But no, other than that, it's been going good.
How was the? I forget the conference you were at.
The CSS day.
Yeah, how was that?
It was really good.
Looked like it was at a really cool place.
Yeah, it's like an old. The venue is an old church in Amsterdam. So
So cool.
yeah, it was. The location was really nice. It was, it's CSS conference, so I'm going to enjoy myself.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, the CSS community in general is very chill. So it was the vibe of it and everything else was pretty good.
My first time to the UK, they took me out to dinner. I don't know, south somewhere, a couple hours from London, and they took me to a pizza restaurant that was in a church. It was an old church that was converted to a pizza joint, or an Italian joint, I guess. And the pizza ovens were where the altar would be. And so it was the oddest, surreal experience because you're just like you feel like you should be at church, yet you're like chowing on some za, and you're like, there should be a priest up there, but it's like the priest of the priest of pizza. Like I don't know, Reverend Mozzarella. Like I'm not sure kind of what to do, but they would make it all up at the altar, right? And they'd be
Yeah.
bringing it out. It was it was great, but it was just the oddest experience.
Yeah, that's it. I could see that being a little bit surreal in a way.
Yeah. Ellie, Michael, Aztec Consulting. How are you guys? All right, Kevin. So this is just us rambling, and I want to go back to. I mean, you just released a podcast where you and I were just rambling on your podcast, which is great. I want to go back to the conversation we had in Texas. Because you and I, we went past the fires, we ended up talking, and then we ended up talking for like 2 hours about YouTube and creating content and all that. I mean, a lovely conversation. I'm curious, what has things changed since then? Like, it's been 6 months. So what I'm trying to gauge is like, you put a lot of shit into pumping out videos on CSS. How much has that world changed in just 6 months?
That's a good question. I find it's because I'm so focused on just making the content, I get a little lost, like the forest for the trees type of thing sometimes.
Yep.
So not 100% sure. I saw a comment just saying my audio was hard. I was a little low, so if
you're good.
I played with something, so
yeah, I got you good.
But yeah, so a little bit hard on that front. To know the change for me, it's been mostly I did cut down on my schedule because I realized I was putting a lot of time into just making YouTube videos, which is fine. It's sort of what I do, but I needed to slow down, so that was important.
Do you feel like that's affected anything?
I mean, the overall it impacts the channel overall, just in terms of like, oh, my views are going down because I'm putting out less content,
Sure.
right? But on an individual video basis, I don't think there's been an impact. It seems like as I mean, I'm still doing a video a week, so it's not like I, vanished and then randomly am putting out videos. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, the individual videos are performing as I'd expect, and I think it'll just find sort of a new baseline once it settles down a little bit. And I find, for me, in a way, I'm still trying to find the balance as well of like what type of content I should be making, which is funny with when it's like a pretty niche topic. But I just came from a CSS conference, all of these new things and all the cool stuff and all the things I'm really excited about, and most people don't want to talk about that because I was just had a comment today about browser support again on something that I did, and it's like I get it, but I also there's this weird thing in the CSS space where the adoption of new features, like new features, they come, then you sort of wait a while for browser support to
Yep.
improve.
Yep.
But now that first round of like a lot of the cool stuff that we got a few years ago is hitting really good browser support numbers, and people are like, "Oh yeah, we're not using that," or they don't even know about it, and it's kind of weird. Um, and so there's this like, I feel like part of what I need to be doing is just raising awareness for all of these things that are really cool, while balancing the idea of, yeah, this, how can you use that in production now? When would you be able to use it? Is it something that's for personal sites? You can play with it. But I think it's important to be raising awareness of these things because eventually they're going to be, or I guess now I'm sort of like, let's focus on these ones that you could use today safely. And then also just like other content that's not pushing the envelope or looking at new stuff, because there's still tons of new people coming into the space, and they're not ready to do some crazy weird animations or get into in-depth layout techniques. They just want to know how to like center a div or to do simple typography styling and stuff. So it's always finding the balance there. And that's again where I sort of get lost of not seeing the big picture all the time because I'm so focused on like the little parts of it that I don't know what's going on trend wise.
I feel like, let's see. They're saying your audio is still a little low. I'm going to jack mine down just a little bit. Maybe that'll normalize us out a little bit. I feel like what you explained is just like, that's just software development, right? Like, Node 22 is out. There's a whole bunch of things. It's going to take a while for people to take those things on. You have release cycles that take, a good amount of time before you can really take the stuff on and test it. I feel like CSS is probably challenged just in its nature, because if you have something that's out there working, it's going to be pretty hard to convince somebody to like go back and be like, hey, I need to go add this new thing because it looks cool and shiny. Unless you weren't able to do it before, you're probably not going to be able to really put energy into it until that piece is kind of touched again. It'd be my kind of guess. So I feel like the adoption curve on like new CSS is probably always lagging the furthest behind on anything. And it's not front of mind, right? I mean, unless you're really paying attention to it. I couldn't tell you what new CSS shit's out. Like, I'm trying to get old CSS to work fine. You're muted.
I am muted. I was coughing. Sorry. I think part of what it is too, like you said, like, because that's not the thing where everyone's focused on, but like we're seeing some of these things that the browser supports there now, things that people asked for, like container queries were something that were sort of, everyone wanted that. Why isn't this possible? We're told it's not possible. It finally happened. Browser support's finally good. And then people are like, oh, I haven't really found good use cases for them. And so I'm not using them. And I'm just like, what do you mean? And then so it's like, now it's like, okay, we need to like show. But I think part of it is if writing CSS is 10 or 20 or 30% of your job, you're not going to be looking at like, okay, how can I do this thing in a different way than I've always done it before that might be incrementally better when I have this way that I can work that works and I can just stay with that way of doing it. So, it is definitely finding the use cases where it's not like, we're not just going to redo that thing in a new way, but like, oh, this opens up these new possibilities. And I think it's trying to spread the word on like, this is why that's better, because now this solves these problems. And like with most things software development related, it's just about knowing what's possible, right? And then when you're like, oh, I think I can do that, and then you look it up and find out how to do that, instead of just being stuck in sort of the regular way that you might have been used to or whatever.
I mean, the reality, there's a whole lot of stuff there, right? I mean, you have dedicated a channel in your workings to doing nothing but CSS. Like, if that's not the definition of like, there's a whole lot of shit in a very specific space, I don't really know what is. Because, and just if you think about the whole stack, like that's just one small piece of the whole giant elephant.
Yep.
So I asked about YouTube, only in an aspect of, well, one, did you hit 1 million yet?
Not yet.
How close are we?
I'm like 915 or something like that.
It's crazy.
Oh, I'm at 800 videos today.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
What's that?
918,000 now.
That just blows my mind. That means there's at least 500,000 people who really care about CSS. There's another 500,000 people who are like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing to make this work. No, I started the whole YouTube thing. I love watching content, or like the whole process and the production and the pieces that go behind it. And, watch Colin and Samir and these folks, and you just go, man, like the world is changing. I'm trying to put out stuff. It's totally horrible. But just the whole like process and getting it out and analytics, and just talk about a never ending train of things that just, and then 3 months later, it's different again. Like my guy almost got banned on LinkedIn because we were connecting too much. And I'm going, oh, well. Come on. Like, just trying to connect with people. Like,
yeah.
How gatekeeping could you be?
I think one thing that's helped me with YouTube is when I started it, I wasn't trying to grow a channel. So I was just sort of, making videos because I wanted to. And then because of that, I think that sort of just followed through. Like, I've obviously you see a spike in views, and you get the little dopamine hit, and you're pretty excited by that and stuff. And it's nice seeing channel growth.
Yeah.
And I've definitely gone in at times into the analytics and been like, okay, let me see if I can understand what's happening to like break it down. What can I do that's going to work better and stuff like that. Now we have, there's more work because we have A/B testing for thumbnails. So I have to make 3 thumbnails instead of 1 thumbnail like I used to, and things like that. But I think part of it's because I'm one of the only people in the niche. So that helps that I haven't really been, it's like, let me try what I want to try, and just as much as possible. I'm still in that like the same mindset I had early on, where I'm just going to make the content that makes me happy. And as long as that keeps working, which so far it seems to have been, I'll keep doing that. And then if ever I see that's not working, I guess then I have to figure out what I'm going to do. But yeah.
Do you feel like you're YouTube famous?
I've been recognized like in the street or at like Costco and stuff. So that's,
oh really?
Yeah. But the first time someone recognized me I was at my kid's birthday party at like a laser tag place, and some dad at another party that was there recognized me, and I'm like, oh, that's cool and kind of weird at the same time.
You just bust out a float on them. You're like, I don't think in the 14 years we've done anything with that conference that I've ever ran into anybody who's like, "Oh, you're Clark from the conference." Like, I've never run into anybody wearing anything. Now other people I have run into one another, but I have never, it's never happened to me, which is just hilarious. So you've got another little secret that I didn't know about until recently, and this is you have this sim rig in your basement.
Yeah.
You're holding back. I'd like to know more about this sim rig.
So I grew up watching race cars. My dad was a Formula One fan. I used to live in Montreal, so that's where the Canadian Grand Prix is. So every year I'd go to that. So I was racing fan. Then I got into go karting and other things like that, which I still like. And I used to play lots of racing games and stuff. So then a few years ago, I decided I'd seen like the sim rig setups and stuff, and I first just got like the steering wheel and pedals,
Yep.
and it just like clamps to your desk, and
Yep.
it works fine. It's
Had
ready
it.
to get started.
Yep.
And then I was like, I'll start with that because I don't want to dump too much money into it. See if I'm actually gonna like keep doing it. And yeah, I just I sort of have to make sure that I don't play too much because I have work to do. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna invest a little bit in that. So ended up buying like the full rig, 3 monitor setup, all of that, upgraded the pedals. I'm still waiting to upgrade my steering wheel to something better because it's insanely expensive. So I have to sort of save up a little more for that one. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I'm absolutely jealous. 100%. We used to been a car guy my entire life, have old cars in the garage, work on old cars when I can or have the money. Grew up watching racing. Used to do a lot of the NASCAR sim racing way back in the day when like it was Dale Jr. and a few others in those leagues, and you try to get around some of them. Loved just that whole space is just crazy. I mean, the sim rig setups that you can get for your house, moving the chairs, the whole nine. Like, I'm like, I want that. Like that to me is video games. Like, I'm in. I want it.
Yeah. The frustrating thing was when you think like, especially after playing with your friends or like doing some of like the less simulation style games where it's like half simulation, half arcade. And then you get into like the real sim games and you're like, oh, I'm actually pretty terrible at this.
Yes. 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 We're like, the Nürburgring is hard.
Yeah. Just learning a track is, you're just like, I just want to race, but I need to know this track. And then,
right.
Yeah.
I just want to race, but I can't even get out of the pit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then you try some of the cars and like, there's actually like real torque in it. So you're like, instantly spinning all the time or like figuring out the braking and it's cool once you sort of get into it and start understanding it more, but it's different from, and you also have that like lack of the physical feeling of the g-force as you're turning a corner, so you also have to like get used to the feel, like really the feel from the steering wheel basically is all you have, instead of actually feeling like the movement of the car and other stuff. I know, like you said, you can actually get the seats that move and all of that, but I haven't. I didn't go for that yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you and I can't get any of that. We need you to get to a few million before we're getting hydraulics on the old chairs.
Yeah,
it's a wild thing. I'm surprised that there aren't more, and maybe there aren't. I just don't know about it. Like places you could go. I don't want to call it an arcade, but like a sim rig thing that you could go and play.
Yeah, the only ones I've seen are the places that like build the rigs that then have like their own space. I guess you can try them, but they'll rent like spaces out. But there's like what, 5 companies that do it, so there's only there's not like these locations all over the place. It would be cool if you had that, because then you get all your friends together or something and go and do a LAN with that. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Have you ever gone? I'm assuming they're still there, but we had a couple places around Chicago that would do, I guess you call them professional go-karts. And you could race, basically have an indoor track that is to the scale of an F1 race. So like the turns, the power to weight and all that is at the scale of what a track would be if you were driving a whatever Formula One car. Man, did I love that. Those things are so much fun. Fast as all day, but so much fun.
Yeah, I love go-karting. I never did. I've been in some fast ones, but I've never had any that were sort of they didn't do that good of a job in trying. Yeah, I've just been at sort of the kart rental, the regular rental places, but they're fun still.
Yeah, no, these were the ones where you had to sit in the prep meeting because they didn't want you destroying things.
Yep.
But
actually, when I was in high school, I'd gone to Scotland to visit my best friend from elementary school. His family was originally from Scotland, and when they finished elementary school, they went back. So during the summer, I went to visit him for a few weeks, and we went go-karting. And it was just one of those indoor regular tracks, but somehow I spun it going around a corner and managed to break the rear axle on it, hitting and that was like the ones that have like the rubber all around and everything. Like I must have hit it just right or something, but they weren't too happy with me.
Yeah. Yeah, I may have gotten a little trouble for braking and gas and I at the same time, but I was that's how you drive these things. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. That is exactly how you do this.
Yeah, exactly. They're all go ahead. You're like, I know what I'm doing. It's fine. Yeah.
I am rolling into this corner hot, baby, and I am coming out loaded. Top Gun ride at King Island is where the seats moved and a pit crew was working. Yeah, that would just be so much fun. So much fun. Michael's asking you to record your upcoming presentation. Oh, there's so much involved in all that.
Yeah.
I wish it was a simple thing. I've got one you can borrow if you want. Look at that. Boom. It's even on my desk.
I should get one anyway. I make content. It would probably be useful to have.
You know what I've been doing? These little stupid rants that I'm putting out every day. I just got, what is this?
That's a fancy one.
No, it's not at all. It's the Insta360 and then and then the lapel mic. It's just my phone just sticks on it, but it has a face tracking. So when I move, it just keeps me in the center of the frame. Take it out of that. Totally cheating and putting it in CapCut. Spending all of 2 minutes editing, shoving it out. So I feel dirty every time I do that. So dirty. So dirty.
Yeah, it works.
I know. I feel dirty. This feels bad. I feel like I'm cheating. Ellie's saying, next time I see Clark, you can fangirl. That'd be the first time it's ever happened. Rennie says, I'm having a hard time learning JavaScript. Well, welcome to the club. We all are.
Yep. There's a reason I don't have lots of JavaScript content on my channel.
I've been working in JavaScript a long time. I'm no expert by any stretch. I learn every day. So you've cut back on the YouTubes. Are you finding the balance? How have you filled that space? And don't just say with more sim racing, because I know that's not the case.
I wish. Yeah, just lounging on my patio. No, mostly one of the reasons I did cut back on it was because I realized that I was just spending too much time on that side of things, and I have sort of an entire business that was getting completely ignored because all I was doing was making YouTube videos. So it's shifted to a lot more work on my course or courses. I've been working on a course forever now that I just want to get finished. So that was part of the motivation. It was like I need to be able to devote more time to it because I started working with more people. I have someone helping me with pre-production on YouTube videos. I have someone helping with my emails. I have, I tried doing all of those things to like, so I could focus on the important things that only I can do, and it still wasn't enough. So I was like, okay, maybe I just need to make less YouTube videos. And it was weird when I did that because when I started doing 2 videos a week, when I went full time with, left my job and went to the whole content creation thing, and I was so like, because it seemed like, okay, I was doing 1 video a week already when it was my part-time thing. I can definitely do more now. And then so I sort of identified that part of what I was doing as that's me, that's part of my full-time job. That's what I have to do.
Yeah.
And then it took me way too long to realize like, no, like, yes, the YouTube part is part of it, but there's a lot of other pieces that are part of the puzzle that need my attention too.
Do you feel like you're working on the business enough?
It's better, that's for sure. It probably could be even more better. But yeah, it's a big improvement over what it was before.
How are you measuring that? Like, how can you say that it's
I
better?
mean, seeing, I've done a few things. Part of at the same time I made that change, I started being a lot more, what's the right word? It's escaping me at the moment, but I'm like blocking off my calendar and following it a lot more than I used to.
Intentional.
Intentional. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been a lot more intentional with what I'm doing. And so I'm purposely making sure that I'm spending more time on the pieces that need my attention. So that's helped. And I can put those blocks on my calendar because I don't have the pressure of I need another YouTube video out tomorrow.
Are you pretty good at time boxing how long a video takes?
Yes and no. Some videos, yeah, I'd say in general, yes. And then every now and then there's something that just goes off the rails. And
Sure.
I think that's the same with anything. But yeah, I'm at this point, it's almost 8 years I'm making them. So I have a rough estimate on how long each one will take. And it's usually, give or take, I can ballpark it.
I mean, it's hard. I'm in a total struggle with kind of the balance of time and distractions, disruptions. I've got enough deep work that there's like so many things going on between the 2 businesses, and then just the pressures of getting tickets sold and sponsorships, and then those phone calls and the event planning, and then client work number 1, client work number 2, client work number 3. Again, problems that there's that many. And then finding like, listen, I need like 5 hours and I don't want anybody to talk to me. I can't, you gotta leave me alone because I can't have you come in 30 minutes or pop in. Like I need the world to go away so I can get this stuff done. And it's been a struggle.
Yeah, that's hard. Yesterday, I had my wife call me in the afternoon. She was going to someone's retirement party and was bringing deviled eggs. And then she's like, I'm running late. Can you make them for me? And I'm just like, oh, fantastic. Okay. I guess I won't do this now. And I'll go make some deviled eggs for an hour. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's like the little things, right? But yeah, no, that's the thing is like I can estimate how long the different things will take me, but it's hard when all of those other things start coming up that you don't anticipate or can't anticipate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I struggle with it's like, oh, I could get back to it later tonight. No, like it's just my old body's going to be like, no, it's just, you're too tired, man. You're going to hit that. You're going to sit down on that couch and you're going to fall asleep. That'll be the end of that shit.
I can relate. That's, yeah. It sucks when, I mean, you have the motivation to just be like, I can power through that, and your body is just like, no, you can't. We're not doing that now. Yeah.
Right. Nice try, buddy.
Yeah. You want to do that, but we're gonna go do this instead because
I'm in my middle. I guess I'm in my late 40s now. But I think about when I was in my 20s and crying away on projects, and it's just not the same now. Like I don't have and I don't think anybody should, regardless of your age, but 15-hour days are still 15-hour days. Like it's too long.
Yep.
Still working too long.
Yeah, it's hard though there's always something else to do, right? And something that needs to get done. And
yeah, I mean, that assumes, I said something somewhere in socials. I was like, I have too much stuff going on. And somebody's response was, oh, well, just do less. And it was like, oh, I can't. Like, it's not, the problem is I signed up for too much, right? Like we have the event, like I can't do less event planning. I could, if we could have resources that could pick that stuff up. If you don't, like it's still got to get done. Like the design's got to get done. The order's got to get out. But then I also have this client project and it's running behind, and I have another one starting, and now it's starting late. And it's like this perfect storm of things. And you're like, man, how did I get here?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you tell yourself you're not going to make that mistake again, and then you do it a month later and it's the same story again. Yeah.
Right. Right. And then you're like, oh, but I need to make the content and do the things, because that's my biggest fear right now at the conference is like, we're doing all the right things. I'm just wondering if it's too late. We're behind on ticket sales. Will we have a good rush to the end? I don't know. Will it impact next year? I don't know. I think about the podcast you and I shipped out on your channel. Great. This is a fantastic conversation. I don't really know how to measure like the impact that it has in either direction. Like, how is it? I don't know if it was good for you, right, in your audience, if it's good for me in my audience. I mean, it's a lovely conversation. I don't know.
Yeah. That's something I struggle with a lot, of knowing the exactly that. Like, how do you know the impact, and what, like, it's even like, there's one thing I don't do very much of is taking on sponsors for my channel. And part of it's because most products I haven't used, and I don't like shilling for stuff that I don't actually know. But then you'll see some of like the requirements of like, they're like, we need, or I talk with some other people too, and they're like, they're looking at like click-through rates and these other things. And I'm like, that's part of it. But like, if you're advertising, like, and creating content is sort of advertising, like part of it is the immediate impact, and part of it's like a longer term impact. And there's like so much that goes into it. And it's just to be like, what's the click-through rate? I find is such like a depressing way to look at it.
Interesting you say that, because the corollary for me would be how many people are attending. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's an irrelevant number. If I have 1,000 or I have 100, if you got 100 sales off of 100 or 100 sales off of 1,000, what does it matter? Like, And on the flip side, are you going to be engaged for the long haul? Because you're right. The long game is really where it's at. So you're making an investment. You're going to be there. It'd be like, you're going to a dance and you stood on the side and you didn't really get involved, right? But you go back to the dance again. You're like, oh, look, I see how this works. And now I'm going to maybe like ask somebody. And then, right, your third time, you're like out there, I don't know, swing dancing. I don't know what happens at a dance. But like that long game, that's where you start to see the hockey sticks. And I tell you, I get in these conversations, and it's the first thing is always, well, how many people are going to be there? And I'm like, I know exactly how this is going to go. You are not in it for the right reasons. You're not going to do anything beforehand. I'm going to get off this call, and then you're going to ask me if I'm going to send you an email list, and I'm going to tell you, no, not sending you an email list. And you're, oh, well, every other conference does it. And I'll go, that's great. We don't. I've already told you this once. And then this dance happens, and like, I don't know. You're not right. You're not a good fit.
Yeah, it's frustrating though.
It is, especially when you need the money.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's not a good way to measure the long game.
No.
Especially if the people who are involved in a long game change hands. Now you have somebody who doesn't have any historical context as to where they started and where they've gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've got a few this year who have pulled out, and I'm really curious how that affects their short game now, because I think it's going to have some bigger impacts than the C-suite thinks.
Yep. Yeah, they don't see that side of it a lot of the time.
Nope.
Yeah.
Not at all. I started thinking about, you've been working out of your house. I want to say damn near as long as I have been, but a long time.
Yeah, quite a while.
I got to thinking the other day, the loneliness in the market or in the industry, and the friendships that haven't been made, and the social skills that have been lost are going to have a humongous impact on the workplace.
Mm.
So as people maybe come back or don't, or hybrid or whatever any of that means, doesn't really matter. How many friends are being made at work? Like, do you really want to go to battle with anybody to ship your code? Or are y'all just kind of working the list? I'm really curious where this is going to go.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's going to have an impact, and it's different. I guess it depends on, as you said, like there's so many different situations that are out there now compared to, it was kind of standard to a certain extent in the past. There was remote work and stuff, but it was not to the extent. So it'd be interesting in the next, I think we'll start seeing it sooner than later, just on how it impacts things. And I think even when it comes, like, so much of, I think even like from the learning perspective and that side of things too, of the people that are trying to get into the industry, and especially now we keep hearing about how hard it is and everything like that. And if, it's people that are, if you're just learning from, I'm mostly self-taught, or learning through online courses and other stuff like that. Like that, I think you can be an excellent developer going that route, but you don't have the connections that you'd have if you were in a physical school. And that's such a big part of it. And then, you're sort of, I think that's the biggest advantage of learning. It also depends on your learning style. Some people, it can be hard to stay motivated too when you're just doing everything on your own. But just, that early on networking that you can have, I think pays dividends for a lot of people down the road. that you don't get when you're not actually meeting people. And that also obviously impacts on the workplace too. If you're a junior developer and then you lose your job and you've only been working remote, you don't have the same type of connections that you would if you'd been in the office and worked at a couple of companies and stuff like that.
Yeah. And there's a long tail on that, because I was just talking to somebody the other day who I haven't seen probably in 7 years. And he popped in and was like, hey, I just dropping in. It's been a while. I'm going to be in Chicago. Would love to have dinner. We need to catch up, whatnot. And the person I haven't talked to in 7 years, right? He's like gone on to do great things. I'm like, yeah, like let's, and that was all from, going to battle with this individual back in the day. Like that that interaction would have never happened if we were just like, what do you want to call them? Zoom buddies. Like it just wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find in, I don't want to say the way you teach, but I guess the way you teach through YouTube, do you find the interaction that people have? What's the best way to really word this? You teach, it's very kind of one way, right? You don't even get to see them. So that's already one awkward part. Do you find you kind of getting an energy or something back off of the engagements in the comments, or I don't know, a live stream or something like that? Like, do you get to kind of close the feedback loop?
Live streams are better just because there is that in the moment interaction, which I think is, I think that gives you a bit more of that direct feedback, even if it's a little bit different. But I used to teach in the actual classroom. So that's been my biggest struggle for the last 5 years. Since I've stopped that, is in the classroom having like, it's not only the feedback of like a question coming up, it's the feedback of like the expressions on their faces as you're explaining something, and right away if they understand it or not. And then when you're like, then they start doing some work and then the question comes up and like you can see like the types of problems that are coming, and like so it's not only like the feedback directly from the student, but then also through the work they're doing and through like the other things and seeing the problems that come up. And that even whenever I'm doing anything, it's like that part is hard. The comment section of YouTube, I mean, my channel tends to be super friendly and nice, and everybody, it's very polite, and people are just like, oh, it's fantastic, thank you, and like all of that. As soon as there's a question,
but that's not even helpful. Like, no. I mean, it's like, that's great, but that's not that's not feedback it's that nice you can do anything with.
It's good if I need a little ego boost or something, seeing all these people who are like, yay, but it's, but the problem is like when questions do come up, or there's like, sometimes there'll be some feedback, but a lot of the time it'd be a question about something. And just with the amount of comments I get, even if I reply to them and that's the end of it. Like there's no back and forth. I can reply once and then I'm never going to see it again. So I usually tell people if they do have questions on how to do something, to go to my Discord, because at least there, I might not see it, but at least they can have a conversation.
Somebody else.
And you can have a bit of a back and forth. But it's especially, I find with YouTube videos, I see it a little bit differently, because it's like, here's a piece of information, go do what you will with it almost. And whatever it is, whether it's something that's bigger or here's just like a small thing. I find it a lot harder with my courses and finding ways, because I equate that more to like when I was teaching in the classroom, of like, here's a curriculum basically, and how do I keep people engaged in an online course? Because I know the numbers in like drop off rates and all of those are insanely high.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that? I'm actually surprised that you said that.
I think I don't actually have the numbers on my own, because the platform I use doesn't keep track of it. I don't know why, but I know industry wide, I think the average completion rate of a course is like 20% or something of online courses.
Wow.
Yeah. It's it's really low.
I did not. What platform do you use?
The main one I'm using right now is called Podia, but yeah,
Kajabi came across my desk.
I've seen Kajabi. I've been doing the tour lately on finding a new one. I had a call with some people at Kajabi, Teachable. There's another one too. I forget.
Let's say somebody was getting ready to lean into one of those. Which platform were you leaning towards?
I'm really not sure yet. I keep pushing it off because I'm already working on a course and putting it into a platform. It's like 90% done. I just want to finish it, and then I'm going to sit down and put my attention onto figuring out what the next thing is.
Yeah, well, hurry up with that so I don't misstep. All right.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm leaning at Kajabi.
Mm-hmm. Kajabi is good if you want something for email too, right? Because they do everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't gone that far down the rabbit hole of things.
They do. They have like the full platform plus they have like the regular platform. I think they have like a community feature. They do the email newsletter side of things. They're sort of like one of those all-in-one hub ones, which has its certain appeals.
Yeah, given how much shit I have going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I know at least 2 people who use it and recommend it, so I will say that. I haven't tried it. So
20%. That's mind blowing to me. Do you think that percentage goes up if the course is more expensive?
Probably, yeah. I think people value, like it's one of those funny things with pricing, and I hate pricing things of like, what's the value they are getting out of it, and I want to make sure that they're getting more value out of it than the price they're paying. But how do you equate value? Like it's a really hard thing to do. But people do, like, if the price is higher, they value it more too. So if it's like a $5 course, like it's an impulse buy, they might not ever open. Whereas if it's a $500 course, well, they probably want to actually get through that. Yeah.
We saw the same exact things with sponsors. So our sponsorship prices early on were much cheaper. And what was happening was sponsors, they didn't get access to food, but they were stealing food from us. So I would have a $1,500 sponsorship, and then I'd see 6 people eating, and I'd be like, you guys have now cost me more than you even paid for your sponsorship. And at the same token, it wouldn't really help the effort, right? It was almost like they were entitled. And then when we raised the prices, not only did they start to respect the value of the thing, the stealing stopped. And then they started going all in on like trying to be part of the success of the thing. And I was like, what in the fuck just happened? Like, how? I don't understand. Wow. Like, just wow.
Yeah. The psychology behind these things is fascinating, and I don't get it at all, but it's interesting. Yeah.
It really is. We struggle on the ticket price side of things because everybody wants it to be really cheap, except it's not cheap at all. And there's like, everything's kind of out of balance right now, the whole industry, right? The venue wants a bunch of money. Food is really expensive. We're just trying to pay the bills. Numbers haven't bounced, right? Like the whole thing is just, feels like it's on shaky legs. Well, it is on shaky legs. Yeah. So your feedback on your courses, how then are you trying to seek out, like, is Kevin teaching well?
I do try to get feedback. I have like at the end of the courses, I have like a form thing they can fill out to like give feedback on things, so I can try and fix things if there's, especially reoccurring things. But I do find that's like the hardest thing of like not just talking into the void, and that's most like, yeah, it's almost entirely what it is, which makes it hard. And I think it's, you know, it's one of those things where I wish there was a bit more. And there are ways of, like, I know people who do like cohort based stuff. So you're doing it more like you have the group that comes in and you're sort of bringing them along a little bit at the same time. So there, I think there's more interaction that goes into it, which is kind of appealing, but it's a lot of work in terms of, like, you know, you can only have so many people. It takes a lot of time to go through everything. And even then, the drop off rates, I always assumed that at least like people would, you know, you're there, you're doing live sessions with people and everything else, and you still get really high drop off rates. And like I had a friend who did it, and I think by the end there was like 2 people still showing up for the live streams, and like there was no complaint. Like people that were doing the course, he was like asking afterwards, and like, no, it was good. It's just like, you know, I didn't have time to start, you know, or I was falling behind a little bit in the material, so I didn't want to go to the live because, you know, and you, depending on the pace they're going through stuff on their own, it's just like that's sort of, I don't know. I don't know if there is a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel good about what you're doing? Like, what's your measurement of success then?
I have no idea.
I mean, that's a fair answer.
Yeah.
I didn't say I wasn't going to ask hard questions.
Yeah.
Just looking out for you, man. You got to find something.
I know a lot of people buy multiple of my courses, so I guess that's like a sign that they liked one if they're going to get another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the only thing I can think of that's reliable.
How do you find your fulfillment with it?
I think I don't see it directly in terms of the, like, a single course or a single video or anything like that, but just the general feedback that I get from people, where people will tell me like, oh, you know, I was a back end dev that had to write CSS and it was the worst part of my job, and now I look forward to it. Or other, you know, types of comments like that, where it's, you know, I still don't love it, but at least I understand it. Like even something like that makes me happy of like, okay, I'm accomplishing my goal if I can actually get people to not want to avoid it. It's
Yeah.
sort of, you know, so seeing just like the general feedback I get from people on that front. And I mean, even when I was at the conference last week, a few people were telling me like they watched stuff, some of my videos, and took what I did in the video and it got implemented in their company's design systems and stuff. And I was like, oh shit, that's cool. Okay.
You're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have changed a few things.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're like, I better got to be careful with this. But and then they're showing, like, one of them like pulled out their phone and they were showing me like they took something I did and they sort of like made it a lot better. And I was like, that's really cool. And I think that too is like, in a sense, like I'm not in the trenches like all these people that are watching my stuff are. So like that they can take what I've done and build on top of that to actually use in production and to make it better and to do cooler stuff with it. Like that for me is very fulfilling and really cool to see.
Yeah, you know, for a long time, you know, I would look at ticket sales, the number of people showing up, and somehow equate value to, like, we were doing good if we had X number of folks, which is a very tangible yet kind of surface level measurement of things. When really, you know, the numbers shouldn't matter. They do from a business standpoint,
Yeah.
but you know, there's not deriving any like true fulfillment off of something where you're like, you know, I got 100 of these widgets. It doesn't. If nobody does anything with the 100 doesn't do anything with what they had, it's still no good.
Right. Yeah. But it is hard though at the same, like, on that same sense, like obviously when a course sells well for me, that's good, but that's like, and I need that because if for my business to succeed the same way you need your ticket sales. But like you said, that's, you know, that's before they've arrived, or, you know, they haven't done the course yet. So like, that's sort of what I need to happen, but then I'm hoping that leads to whatever it leads to from there. And that's, I think, where the value comes from. But the problem is you need that first step first, which is the harder part.
Yeah. Goddamn chicken and egg.
Yeah.
So what's what's on the horizon? What do you got? What do you got cooking?
Yeah. I'm one of the things that I thought about when I was trying to figure out how I can reduce my own workload. Or it's not necessarily reduce my workload because I'm going to be, you know, like you said, you fill your time up with something else instead. But
Yeah, that law is true. That's a
yeah.
real that's a real thing.
um, but to be able, like, I'm like, I realized one of my flaws is I'm
Mhm.
really slow at making courses. Hopefully, now that I've reduced on the YouTube side, I can be a little bit better on that. But I want to start working with more people within the CSS space on creating content. I've already started on YouTube. Actually, I haven't done one in a little bit now, but I did a few videos with Adam Argyle, who's works with Google DevRel. Just has fun time with CSS. So I'm like, let's do some more stuff together and have fun with that. And then there's another person I'm doing a workshop with. So like he's really good at what he does, but he doesn't have the audience of my size. So let's do it together. And you make the awesome content and teach the really cool stuff, and I'll make sure people show up for it. And then I want to start doing that with some courses too, and working with people. Um, I don't know how it's going to work because I've never collaborated on a course. Because I don't want it to be like you make the course and I just I'm like this, you know, go buy this cool thing and I'll host it. Like I want to somehow be involved in it.
Yeah.
And I'm just not sure how two people working on something would work. But I, you know, bringing in other people that are good at this stuff too, because there's lots of them. Um, and yeah, and that way I think it could help just have a more diverse amount of stuff because there's topics. It's one of the things with CSS where like for me, my comfort zone is sort of layout. I like making layouts. I sort of get into the weeds with it, having fun with that side of things. I like playing with animations, but I'm not that good at it. And there's people much better. There's, you know, typography is its own entire world that is insane. And I like typography. Like when I was
Yeah, I
in
love
school,
typography.
I was so into it. And then let's start doing all this with CSS. And I'm like, holy cow, like this is, you have to be your own specialty just to get into that. There's, I mean, sort of ties in with like SVGs and other stuff there where again, I can do the most basic thing. I can, I can change the color of a fill. That's cool. And
I made an SVG animate and I was like, that that is cool. Like I
yeah,
worked my ass off on it. And then at the end I was like, why did I spend so much time doing this?
yeah. Talking about making videos and how long they take. I did one where it was like 3 different hamburger menu animations, but all with SVG to like, you know, like along the path and other stuff. So it was like a simple one, a medium one, and a hard one. I must have spent like 18 hours working on like a 20-minute video, and it was such a waste of time, but I had fun doing it. So
I I'm gonna come back to what you were just talking about,
yeah.
but the SVG thing, I to this day do not understand why that is a technology that is not more prevalent in the web. I do not get it. I It blows my mind every time I see logos that are PNGs and JPEGs, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why you have the most basic of logo? And yeah, you could do shading with SVGs or gradients and all that, but it's like your line art, like make it a vector, make it the 3K that it should be instead of the 90 that it is as a JPEG.
Yeah. And it probably is a vector somewhere that for whatever
Oh
reason they
yeah,
decided to export as a little tiny PNG. Yeah.
I I I don't. I'm just I don't understand why SVGs are not more of a thing
Yeah. I
in
think
the
it's
web.
just they're complicated in a way that people, it's that same thing with like why people don't learn more of the CSS stuff because they're busy with other things, and SVG has like all of these little nuances that I think But at the same time, like it's not hard just to do like image source SVG, and at least at the most basic level, let's start with that, and then we can always up our game from there if you need to.
You would think when I ask sponsors for like vector graphics, you would think it would be like a no-brainer. And then somebody will send by a JPEG, and I'm like, you don't understand. I can't blow that up to 4 feet wide. It will look like a pixelated pile of shit. Just give me your Illustrator file, and I'll make the vectors. Oh, we can't give out our Illustrator file. That's like corporate. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever.
My favorite is when you search a company and put logo, and they actually have like their press page or media page, and they just have every version, and it's actually there. Like, here's all their SVGs. Like, take what you need. And I'm like, how is this not like a standard practice? I got when I was working in print way back when I had a company give me their logo in an Excel file. And it was just like pasted into like a cell in an Excel for some reason. And I was like, that's okay. I guess I'm retracing that.
Okay. I'm going to date myself here, but this used to drive me bananas. Way back in the day, I don't know, .com, when .NET first, before it came out, we were on a project, had a bunch of testers. This is before .NET ever shipped 1.0. We were kind of a beta group. And one of the great things was you would get these HTML error pages, right? And we would want them to log a ticket, the testers to log a ticket. All they needed to do was Control A, copy the text, put it in. But what they would do is they would take a screenshot, okay, of an image of the browser, which was nothing but text. They would take a screenshot of that. They would put it in a Word document, and then they would attach the Word document to the ticket, right? And we would get so aggravated. So, because nothing could search, right? None of this. Like, you had nothing. You would have to open the doc to look at this image. Like, you couldn't even copy the text out of it because it's fucking JPEG. So we would tell them, just copy the text and put that as like the description of the bug or whatever. Just copy it. And they would keep doing it. So then our response was to open up Notepad, to type out the response, take a screenshot of the Notepad, put it in a document, and then put it back attach it back to the ticket to have them like
go through it.
Yeah. You're like, could you please just copy the text? It's just text.
Yeah. If you can figure out how to paste an image into Word, you'd think you'd know how to copy some text and paste it in somewhere. Yeah.
Right. What were we talking about before SVGs? I wanted to come back to it. Oh, damn it.
I don't remember either.
That was good. I had a good question.
I was talking about a video that took me a long time to make for the SVGs. Before that, I don't remember. Sorry.
Yep. Blew it. No, it's on me. I squirreled off onto the whole.
Okay.
I mean, SVGs, they're so cool. They really are.
There's something that the other problem with SVGs, though, I find, is because like you only need to do like beyond the very basics with them once in a blue moon, unless you're, there's probably people who live in that space more, but for most of us. And so then you learn it all, and then you don't use it for 9 months, and then you go to do it again, and you're just starting from all over again, trying to remember what you did before. Yeah. And
yep.
And they're so, like you said, really powerful, really cool, performant, and nobody uses them, or not enough people use them. Yeah.
I mean, just in general, the whole design space. I mean, you would really think that just more shit would be in vectors, and it's really not. Again, I'll have to show you my little stupid SVG animation. I wonder if I can pull this out to. Can I just open this in a new? Yeah, in the comments I dropped that little graphic at the top right hand side is an SVG that I worked so hard to animate, and then was like, why did I do that?
Oops, I clicked on the wrong thing. Oh, that's cool.
I mean, doesn't sell more tickets.
Sometimes we have to do those fun things though, just to like you need that distraction almost of just having fun making something that's completely useless, or not completely useless, but like just, yeah. And it's fun to do, and it reminds us why we do it in the first place. I've done that with videos too, where I'll it just become, it can become a grind, and so then I'm just making something that's fun to make and recording myself doing it just so I don't, and then it reminds me like, oh yeah, this was fun, and then on like that it was low effort, and I can just sort of go through it and talk my way through it, and then I'm like, okay, I feel a little better now, and I can do some other stuff now that focus on what I need or should be focusing on instead.
Yeah, I know what I was going to come back to is you were talking about collaboration, right? And you collaborating with other folks.
Oh, yes,
and
that's right.
You and I had this conversation where when we first met, I don't know, a year or so ago, where I was like, yes, there's like a place where how does Kevin, how does Clark, how does somebody else, how do we all collaborate in such a way that we can use each other's strengths and kind of propel one another up, because we're all important in some way to the ecosystem, the system, right? And how do you do that effectively? And it's hard. Like I'm glad you're on this journey with us. I don't know what the right ways are. I don't think any of us really know, right?
Yeah.
Other than just doing and seeing what things work. And I think it's going to be context dependent, stack dependent, culturally dependent, something that works in person versus online, right? Those are two way different things. We need more in person of all the things.
I should send it to you. Jason, I'm going to say his last, learn from Jason, learn with Jason.
Yeah. Langsdorf.
Yes, that's it. Do you see the video he just put out, I think last week?
Sure did.
Yeah. That made me think of, I've thought of you when I saw it. And I'm like, I think Clark would like this one.
Not only, so Jason keynoted way, way back in the day. So I've known Jason for a long time. And, which is a great keynote. He did a really nice job. So earlier that same day, I had put out something about, getting why it's so important to get together, right? And it's come at this time where I feel like I've just been beating this train of like, you need to get out, you need to go socialize with people. And Jason and I don't know, in the last year, we've talked about a few different kind of collaboration opportunities and, what does it really look like? And there's more behind that video, because he was even questioning like the value of like, why would I be at that conference? Like I can do this. I got learn with Jason and all this stuff. Right. And then to see him put that video out, I was like, I felt a little validated in that what we're doing, because, I feel like I've been screaming into a void of like, no, you got to go meet people. Like you got to get out. And then he really raised the the production bar on that one. Like it was really fucking well done. I was like, oh man, you got all the feels on this one. This is really good, man. Like Jason pulled it off.
Yeah.
What?
He always makes me feel bad about my production values.
Shit, man. Come on. You have your own. The thing I really appreciate about what you have done and built is you have your own. How does it only have 12,000 views? That is mind blowing to me. I'll put it out here. You have an aesthetic that I really appreciate.
Oh, thank you.
Like, it is uniquely your brand. I think it works well for what you do. I think the production quality is fantastic. I don't know why you would think otherwise. But,
No,
I mean, it's great.
I'm not doing his style of video either, where he has like, or especially with like that video and like other videos he does like that, where they're, he has the full production behind it and everything. Like it's high quality. It's just, it is a weird thing though with YouTube in that sense of like some channels, even just educational ones that are more of like, here's how to do a thing. Like, they're making these cool things with After Effects and showing the code and like, I'm just like, that's not my, I'm not about to change and start doing that. And like you said, I sort of have my style, I guess, that I've figured out over the years. And now it's one thing that's good that my channel's got to the size it has, because people will complain about different things. And I'm just like, I've been making videos for 7-8 years now that are like this. Like, I'm not about to start changing. And it's, if I'd been making videos for 7 years and I had 1,000 people watching, maybe that would be a sign that I'm doing something wrong. But I'm like, I figure there's enough people that are appreciating it that if there are some complaints, and they're probably valid, and I'm just like, but I think it's valid in the sense of like, maybe I'm not the right person for you, rather than, there's other people that probably approach it differently, and that's what you need to find, which is fine, because I think everybody connects with different people, especially with educational content. And I think that's a super important thing, is finding someone not only that knows what they're talking about, but that you also click with and stuff like that.
That point can't be underscored enough. I think that's a very real thing. There's another girl who just kind of came onto the scene, who started pushing out some videos on I'm trying to find her name. And she has done a bang up job of explainers. I'd really like to meet this individual, just because I'm totally curious how she does this. Come on, YouTube, stop failing me.
It's always frustrating when you know exactly what you want to find and you can't find it. That happens when I'm looking for my own videos, and I'm like, I guess I need to name this better, because if I can't find my own video that I'm looking for, I've done something wrong.
So Lydia Hawley, if I'm saying it right, she's only got a few videos. I put that in chat too. She's only got a few videos. I don't know. I don't know how I happened to catch her. Her explainers of like how she draws out the stack and animates it, top notch. Like, I don't know what wizardry she's doing to make that stuff. I totally want to meet her and learn, because it's fucking super cool. and part of that for me is like I'm a very visual person, so I that kind of detail um, I find good. You're muted. You're still muted.
Sorry.
I thought you were a pro. Don't you do this for a living? Come on.
Do you know how many times I've recorded a video and realized I was muted the entire time? Yeah. An advantage I think I have doing CSS content is that it's inherently visual.
Yeah.
Everything you're doing, you see, whereas like trying, every other programming language, having a visualization to go with it is super. I agree with you. It's super useful and really hard. Whereas I'm like, put a border on it, and I see the border now.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't have to learn After Effects or whatever they're using. I can just make it appear on the page.
Yeah, like like I said, I don't know what wizardry she's doing. It's super cool. She's got a few of them.
I'm always blown away. I've just looked at her channel and blown away by these people who manage to have 3 videos and all of them have done super well. And I'm just like, how does that happen? I don't understand. I remember there was another channel that had a lot of really cool visualizations and stuff too. That they're still, I think they're still making videos. I don't remember who it was, but same thing. Like they had like 3 videos early on, and all of them. And again, they're really good videos. I'm glad they're getting the attention they do. But it's interesting to me because other people will make really good stuff, and then there's 4 views on it, and then like YouTube is such a weird thing.
I won't tell anybody where it's at, but I have a video out. I made I don't know. This is me flirting around with making videos. There's a video of me like how to change a speaker in my old truck. This damn thing has 40-some thousand views on it. This is the dumbest video ever. I'm like, how is this? How did this happen?
Yeah, it's you said you're not internet famous. There you go.
Nobody knows because of that. I'm not even admitting where that's at.
But yeah, that's one of the those random videos are funny too. It's usually, I think it's someone searching for the right thing and it just happens to land on it.
Yeah, I've had a few of the health things. I don't want to say go viral, so I don't know what it means. And the amount of attention. Like I had something that got well over 100,000 views, and then the amount of responses in DMs was very overwhelming. I was like, oh, that struck a chord with some people. Holy shit. I found a video about how to change a starter on a CRV. Yep, jerry rig, everything's got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Seems about right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my first ever video was my most popular one for a long time, and it's still one of my most viewed. Yeah, and I'm just like, oh, I wish if all of them. The first one's probably not the one you want to actually do well.
Why do you think that's the case?
It was on. I mean, it was how to make a navigation using floats from 7 years ago.
Yeah. That makes me cringe inside a little bit.
Yeah. But it got, I mean, at the beginning it had 0 views or like 10 views for the first like 9 months probably. And then eventually it got picked up in search and then just kept doing really well. And then the longer it went, the more it kept growing. And so, yeah, I was just like, oh, of all the videos that you're gonna pick up. That's the one, eh? And it's died down since then. I've made two newer versions of it to try and be like, this is clearly something people are looking for. So let me find like, here's how you should be doing it now. They've done okay, but they haven't done that well. Actually, I'm curious if it's still getting many views. But I also look at those old videos, and I've only ever taken one video down, just because what I did in it was bad practice. But when I look at like the float based things and other things, I'm like, there's someone who's going to get some legacy project that's all made with floats and has have no idea what they are.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Hopefully that video will help the person understand what the heck is actually going on.
Somebody out there is still dealing with IE6.
Yeah, I had someone in my Discord who's a very active guy in there, and he works in the medical industry, and so he had to deal with Internet Explorer, everything, until very recently. And I think I don't know if they actually dropped support for it yet or not. But yeah,
Man.
whenever we'd be talking about some stuff that it's not even like cutting edge, it would just be like, you know, I think it was even just using grid, and he's a big fan of it, and he's like, I can't.
I mean, there was a point in the whole TC life cycle where I was like, I'm out. Like we're just not going to support it anymore. And if people bitch, like, I just gonna tell them, I don't have the bandwidth to support IE. Like, it's a dumpster fire.
Yep. And it's luckily once the big companies stopped supporting it, then I think it also became easier for people, like, you know, because there was like it was all around the same time too. I remember, like, you know, Netflix stopped supporting it, Facebook stopped supporting it. There was a few others. And then it's like, if you're working somewhere, you could probably be like, well, they're not doing it. And they're like,
yeah.
you know, for them, like 0.5% of the audience is still millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
If it's so, like, it's not worth it to them, is it worth it to us? So because I think less people, it seems to be something people don't really bring up the same way they used to even a year ago, which is nice.
Yeah, I would agree. That seems to have been, it used to be a giant thing.
Yep.
We had a system, a company a long time ago, and we were upgrading things, but the system essentially had to stay around for as long as the people were alive. So we were working in something that was related to insurance of life. And, you know, there weren't a lot of people on the system. And the cost to just, I say this tongue in cheek, so I'll go, the cost to kill them would probably be cheaper than the cost to upgrade the whole system. And it was just like, just put it in the corner, put baby in the corner, just make sure the motherfucker doesn't shut off. Like, it's just not worth it. But yeah, it was like, when can that die? Well, Grandma's 85 right now. So have 10 more years before we can turn that server off.
Yeah.
God, it's kind of horrible back in the day. Remnant. Oh, yeah, it just gives me PTSD. I'm glad it's over with.
Yeah, it's funny when I still see, like, I do polls with my audience and stuff, and things that come up are still browser inconsistencies, and I'm just like, knowing like just the general breakdown of my audience, and a lot of them are newer to the industry, I'm like, you don't know what that means.
Oh yeah, no.
You have no idea how good you have it. Yeah,
it was a real mess back in the day. Like, it was a real mess.
Yeah.
I don't know if where we're at is better per se, in the aspect. I don't really feel like the competition, you know, lack of competition feels like, are we going to move the browser forward? Now, granted, cool things are coming, but when everything's Chrome, you're like, it's Chrome and Safari.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the problem too there with them being two large companies is they have, you know, the pressures and the lobbying they get are, you know, they're
They have
going
their
to
own
see.
motive.
Yeah, exactly. And it's internal, and they also have some external pressures from other stuff, and that means they might be pushing features that most of us could care less about. There's cool stuff coming now though, so I won't complain too much. But
Yeah. I mean, it's the artifact of kind of where it's landed at the moment.
Yeah.
And who can build a browser? I mean, I know Arc's kind of going at it, but like, how do you get into this game?
Yeah.
And then like, what's the return? Like,
it's so
I don't know.
complicated now. I mean, the fact that Microsoft was like, no, it's not worth the investment. Like that, it just like when one of the biggest companies in the world isn't going to bother, and they actually have a budget for it, like nobody really stands a chance.
I mean, I worked at the company for almost 10 years. You talk about losing focus on things where they were dominant. Granted, i.e., they were dominant. They really got smacked by the government. There's still deep wounds there in that, right? Skype just lost it. Just flushed that down the drain. Teams, just communicator and other things before it, like Link, they just flush it. Like, how did you lose this? This so it could have been so dominant in that all of those areas. Just
Yep.
I don't know.
I think it's just big company syndrome. They all do it.
Yeah, and in the case of IE Forum, like there's wounds that go way back to that antitrust thing. Yeah. So just like Apple's got wounds when they were broke, right? They have a very their C-suite team is very dialed into its history. So I get it. I understand. So before we go, because we both have work to do, I gotta know, what browser do you use on a daily basis?
I use Firefox and Chrome interchangeably a little bit. I used to use Firefox more for development stuff, just because the CSS dev tools were better than everyone else's, and then that sort of just leaked through to me using it because it would be opened. And then now the other dev tools are better, and I have other stuff on Google, so it depends what I'm doing, sort of, and I go back and forth. I do have Arc, but I always forget to use it. I was using Edge for a little bit, but then did the Microsoft thing of, it was sort of a cleaner Chromium experience, and then it went the opposite route at one point, and it's like, oh, now we have this and this and this other thing, and I'm like, okay, I'll just use Chrome for that instead. But yeah, it's weird in a sense. I don't really have like a system to how I'm doing it.
Are those the only ones you have installed?
No, I have a bunch.
All of them?
Yeah.
I'm surprised. That surprises me. I might be lonely in this camp of browser usage. Mm-hmm. So I primarily use Brave. Mm-hmm. And as much as I try, I can't get off of it. Mm-hmm. I go use another browser, and I'm like, how did the internet become such a dumpster fire of ads? Like, I don't want to look at that filth. Remove it from your webpage. Nobody wants to see it. And I know there's what's uBlock and all of that, but
a few of them, yeah.
I can't seem to make Arc stick. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I like what they're doing, but I don't know. I can't seem to make it stick. I do use Safari. Obviously, I use it on the phone, but kind of float back and forth between that. And the one that made the machine recently has been Opera.
Really?
And how about that for a throwback? I don't know what caught me. Whoa, shit. That was loud. Sorry,
That's okay.
Opera opened, and it decided to play a symphony in my head, or an opera. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they're all kind of flavors of the same freaking thing.
Yeah.
Other than Safari.
And Safari for a while I was annoyed with, but they seem to have got their act together a bit more.
Yeah, they seem to be trying to move it forward.
Yeah.
And since it's on the phone, I find myself kind of flipping back and forth when we do see issues. I mean, they're usually minor, but it's Safari based. Or WebKit. Is that WebKit? I don't even know.
I wonder why no other browser, like, I don't know. Like, there's so many that, well, I mean, on the phone too, they're all WebKit based. Are they still?
On iPhone, yeah.
Yeah. Is it only Europe where they're changing that, or is that going everywhere?
I don't know.
Yeah. I know I did read some things on that where people were like celebrating because it's not locked down, and then other people are like, well, that just means Google's getting more market share now. And is that what we need?
Yeah, people get so pissy about it. I don't know, like I haven't had a problem with Safari on a phone. Like I guess I just don't care that much. I don't know. Does that make me Apple shrill? Like, I don't know. Like,
well, if it does,
whatever.
I think part of it's also like most people couldn't care less one way or the other. It's a very small percentage that are, within our space that are because we actually know the differences or want the choices because of various reasons, whereas like the average consumer has no idea. It's a thing you click on and it shows me websites.
Yeah, and if I'm browsing on the web on my phone, I've already got another problem. I mean, let's be honest. Like, the number of web responsive sites like SVGs still very lacking.
Yeah. It's always fun when you go on to site. Like there's one site that it comes up in my news feed or whatever sometimes, I guess, just like clicked on it once, so now they think I want to see more from it, and whatever, the content is fine, but for some reason on mobile there's like 5, I don't know, the padding on the sides, it's like 50 pixels, so like the content is so narrow down the middle, and I'm like, how does nobody working at this company realize this? Like, there must be someone who works here who uses it on their phone, because it's, like,
somebody get a device.
Yeah, somebody get a device and just let's get rid of some padding. I like white space, I think it's fantastic, but this is a little over the top.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, the little issues that come up where it's just like, this could have not been a problem and it shouldn't be one.
Well, don't go to my site. I got plenty of padding issues and margin issues. Like, just don't.
No.
Yeah. I'm doing the best that I can, Kevin. Okay, stop judging. Stop judging my layout. All right, my man. We need to call it because we have work to do. This is how you and I don't get stuff done. Yes. Right? These conversations happen. I've now pushed your course back by another day.
That's all right.
As always, it's always good catching up with you. Be Mind, Ellie, Vanessa, Michael, who else is on here? Anthony, Natalie, Joel, AZ Gamer, Ryan, Ken, a lot of people joining today. Rennie. Always good seeing y'all. Kevin, it's been a pleasure. We get to see each other in 40 days.
Yeah, it's coming fast.
You bringing the family?
I am.
Get ready.
They're looking forward to it. The kids are.
That'll be a good time.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
It'll
looking forward to it too.
it'll it's the best way to explain this. You'll be familiar with it because you were at one in Texas, but yet it won't be familiar because it's not the Texas one.
Yeah.
So,
And it'd be different having my family there too, but it'd be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, I was just there yesterday. Well, this morning.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, my man. Listen, love you.
It's
Keep
fun.
doing what you're doing.
Thank
Keep
you.
kicking ass. Everybody in chat. It's always great to see you. And we'll see you next time.